Hello, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining me again today. I have what I think is some uh, pretty exciting stuff, and also it's disappointing too because of kind of the world we're living in. First of all, I want to thank you for subscribing and tuning in. If you do like this content, and again, my message is my effort is to try to continue this conversation, regardless of the political aisle that you subscribe to as far as being right or wrong. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But if you like this content about being able to talk about what I think are really important issues, please share it with somebody else. I want to give a shout out to Massey, the representative in Kentucky, who weeks ago just wanted to follow the Constitution. It appears that it's people like him that are a rare breed at this point, because so many of our elected officials want to throw away the Constitution of the United States. Even in the case in Michigan, the Constitution of Michigan, because we have had this tossed right out the window. Shout out to Bob Martin in the Review magazine, and a fantastic article by Bob Martin in the Review magazine explaining how the Freedom of Information Act was not talked about, as it was suppressed at least through June. And what that means is, with this, I'm going to say it like this, and I think that there are other attorneys that are, it looks like in that article, for sure suing the state of Michigan, Governor Whitmer, and possibly even the legislators for allowing this to happen. And that is that executive order, which was overreaching and tyrannical in its basic, illegal and unconstitutional, unreasonable. It also eliminated the Freedom of Information Act until at a point later in time, which means everything that she does, everything that the legislation does, we can't look that up. We have no access to what they're doing right now. I've asked you before, please contact your state senator, your state rep for the Michigan legislation, and be engaged with them. I don't know how it's worked for you, but as far as it's worked for me, I have not received a phone call back. I have called every week since this has happened. I'm hoping to talk to another state rep who was close to me, but I'm not in his district, but I need an answer. I want to talk to somebody. And I know that there are probably some well-intended human beings. Their intentions are well, as far as trying to do the right thing for the population, but none of this is based on science. None of it. The scientific data continues to prove what we have been saying, and these podcasts have been reporting from the beginning. It's not been exact because there's a lot of lies. And I'll give you one more lie. I'm going to protect the identity of these sources, but I had a conversation today with people that are in the coroner's office in Genesee County, and everybody dies with COVID in Genesee County. If you test positive for it, doesn't matter if you had advanced lung disease, advanced heart disease, advanced diabetes, kidney failure. Doesn't matter if you had all of that. If you tested positive for COVID, that's what killed you. Do you think that that's only happening in Genesee County? That's happening all over. We go back to the governor of Connecticut stating that that child died of COVID-19. Thank goodness the parents came out and said, no, he didn't. He had an accident at home. Quit lying. Immediately, that governor should be required to, if you're going to lie to the American people, to the citizenry of the state that you were elected, you should turn in your resignation. Our governor, attorney general, our legislators have crossed that. They've crossed that barrier between truthfully governing, doing what's in the best interest. It's an oath to the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Michigan, and they have crossed that line. They're breaking that oath. We need to hold them accountable. You please call them. And this has not been based on science. The science is overwhelming. The body of work that we've talked about in this podcast, the latest data now, if you're paying attention to anything other than mainstream media, the latest data now is saying that it's seconds outside in the fresh air. The virus only survives seconds. And because of the movement of the air, it gets dissipated even more. The ability for that virus, because now real American scientists have gotten a hold of this and are studying this thing, interrogating it like never before, and we can come down to how long the virus lasts on surfaces with the right temperature, with the right humidity. You need to respect this, certainly. And it's very highly contagious, but it's nowhere near as deadly as what they were telling us and then suggested. And we so willingly gave up our constitutional rights and liberties and let them do this to us. We have to act. I want to read something to you about understanding the context of things and why we do this. This is from Bill Bonner on the 22nd, so a couple days ago. And he writes, he says, listen, context collapse is it's a phenomenon that's going on in the internet world. It describes what happens when information, much of it entirely out of context, flies around the World Wide Web at the speed of light, crashing into facts, pulverizing logic, and making a hash of ideas. After a while, we don't know which direction is up. Most of what we know or what we believe depends on context. We believe we can safely buy a house because we know the property rights are honored. We think, too, that if a TV program is scheduled for 10 p.m., we can assume that it will come on as expected. Time is a context that is well known and generally respected. We know, too, that if we tell a traffic cop to F off, the result might not be very agreeable. But suddenly, the context of our lives is collapsing. We live in a country with a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, but now it hardly seems to matter to any of us. Millions of us are condemned to house arrest based on opinions of medical experts, and the courts are closed. We know there's no such thing as a free lunch, but suddenly people are sitting down to a 3, 4, and 5-course meal courtesy of the United States government. We know, too, that money doesn't grow on trees. But now we look around and the context has changed completely, whereby money seems to sprout from trees, from bushes, and even like a kind of slime on leaky pipes in prison toilets. Without the basic concept of law, money, and a productive economy, we don't know what to think or what to expect. Things that we would have thought impossible a few weeks ago are now happening right now. Market events previously given such a low probability that they were unlikely to happen, even once in the life of the universe, are now everyday occurrences. In the last 6 weeks, for example, the Federal Reserve added more than twice as much money to America's financial footings, that's its own assets, as it had in the first 95 years of its existence. Remember, the Fed was established in 1913. When economist Milton Friedman first used the term helicopter money to describe giveaway programs designed to stimulate the economy, he considered it a joke, too ridiculous for sensible economists to even consider. But now, helicopters are dumping dollars from coast to coast. And when bond yields went negative, it made us scratch our heads. What the hell could that mean? We wondered. Now, this week, oil went below zero. It is only a matter of time before stocks go negative too. How about house prices? Will sellers have to pay buyers to take the house from them? Rising lines on the chart mean that if you are going to see a trend in place, and if you were to say, well, that's never going to happen, and you start seeing, whether they chart it out and they show you, wow, look at all the deaths that are taking place. Well, this has been something that we need to look at, I think, from a historical context. What was the result 100 years ago when real people were really dying? And yes, the flu was killing them, as well as the underlying conditions. But that flu was killing the young and the old. This, apparently, is killing a very specific group of people for the most part. It looks like, according to the real numbers, 90% of the people that are hospitalized with COVID-19 have underlying comorbidities, underlying conditions. And close to 99% of the people that have died had those severe underlying conditions. Discounted have been the HCQ with Zithromax. Discounted have been the holistic aspects of nebulizer treatments with hydrogen peroxide and iodine, the vitamin C IVs. Discounted have been the facts, but pointed out about how unless it's a manufactured drug from the FDA, you are not allowed legally to say that it can treat or cure any disease. Think about that. Even though we know sunshine and fresh air is killing that disease because the FDA didn't give it to us, we can't say it. Let me get to one more thing about context and understanding. I'm going to give a shout out. We're blessed with kids that we didn't deserve to have kids this great. We got great kids. One of our kids pointed this thing out. And he said, you know what? This is the worldview of the significance between conservatism and liberalism, and even more ideologically driven progressivism. So the liberals vote in lockstep far more than the conservatives, and ask the question, why that be so? Well, one answer would be that conservatives are not monolithic on a number of issues, especially when applied in particular situations. But there is a more general point here, and I say this as someone very much committed to political and constitutional conservatism, and that is conservatism is not an ideology. It is a disposition. Liberalism often is an ideology and less a disposition. What's the difference? Well, the conservative disposition is to understand the importance of stability of institutions, of process, the importance of precedent and history and tradition. The point of conservatism is the disposition to conserve what is valuable in tradition, what is valuable in the institutions that make civilization possible, including marriage and the family. That's what makes conservatism conservative, an effort to conserve. Liberalism, from the very beginning of that term in modern politics, especially in the French Revolution, has been far more ideological, based in abstract principles to which an alliance must be given. And I'm going to end with this. We are not doing enough critical thinking. You may or may not agree with what I am sharing with you today. Time is going to tell the truth. Just like we can try to connect the dots as to how we got here by looking back at what has happened. I'm going to also suggest asking ourselves that question a few podcasts ago. I wanted to know, are we willing to admit that we were wrong? We were wrong in allowing mainstream media to brainwash us into seeing, hearing, thinking, believing the same thing. If they say it, it must be true. The basis for which I would like to have conversations, not just for entertaining purposes, but real conversations about meaningful things that are going to have an impact on our grandkids and generations after us. That basis for those conversations, I want it to be designed to seek the truth. I want to spend more time. I'm out right now because it's already at the 14-minute mark, coming up on 15. Thank you for spending time with me. Share it with somebody if you like it. And as always, till the next time, because there will be more. There will be more real soon. I'm James Detroit, and I'm out.